welcome to another episode of the Business of Coaching Workshop. Today we are joined by special guest Nick Habich. Did I get that right? Habich?
Close enough. It's Havish. We'll
Habich?
take it.
Habich.
We'll take
Dang,
it.
it's 50-50-90, as we used to say in the Navy. Nick is a U.S. Army veteran and business mentor with Two Brain. We and also at Shark Bite Fitness and Nutrition in Cape Coral, Florida, and works to improve the lives of his own members through fitness, nutrition, and community and camaraderie. And today we have him on to talk to us about a topic that I hear often when working with coaches that are starting out with Turnkey Coach, which is a fulfillment system. Very soon after they start trying to master their coaching craft, they then have to answer the question, well, how do I get more clients?
Mm-hmm.
And so today I wanted to have Nick present on how to, and often this comes up as well, the idea of closing or selling just feels to a lot of coaches very unnatural and slimy. So I'm excited to hear more about Nick's thoughts on how to do non-slimy sales.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you guys having us out. Appreciate Turnkey. I'm here with Valerie. She is with me in Pathfinder Sales. She's also the general manager of our gym. And I'll be cutting back to her on random times to give some evidence as to a coach who did not have a sales background, who then became very, very comfortable with sales. But the basis behind Pathfinder coaching, Andrew, is that most coaches did not get into the gym industry to have like a financial burden placed on them, and they did not get into it to like start asking other people for money. They just wanted to help people, right? But the reality is, as we all know, that people oftentimes don't want to help themselves, or at least they will not take the action needed to help themselves. So it becomes really important that we get good at communicating with them in such a way that we can help them get to the point that they can be helped, right? And the entire thesis of Pathfinder coaching is that we don't teach you to convince anyone to do anything, right? We just help you make them understand that you can solve the problems they have, right? Like if your version of sales is knocking on people's doors and asking them if they want to buy your solar panels, which is a very real thing down here in Florida, then that's a whole different kind of industry than what we're talking about. But people come to us because they have a need. We're just here to help them solve that need, you know?
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds a lot like another analogy that I've heard is sales is a version of coaching to help people make a decision, and I've found that to be a useful framework when I'm talking to somebody in a sales kind of conversation. Is that my job is not to convince them to do something, like you said in your words. My job is to help them make a decision faster and make the best possible decision for them. Not for me to make the decision for them, but to help them make the best decision for themselves. And I'm there as like a facilitator and almost like a coach. Does that resonate?
Yeah, we literally say at Pathfinder that sales is the first act of coaching, right? Like if you're going to work with this person for 6 weeks or 3 months or 2 years or 10 years or whatever you're going to do, you're going to coach them thousands of times, right? And the first thing you need to coach them to do is to start. And if you don't, they won't. Therefore, you're not actually coaching them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So do you want to go through slides here?
Let's dive in. So, you know, the most important idea that I want people to understand is that like when we think of sales, this is the kind of person we think of, right? And this is the thing that most gym owners and fitness coaches don't want to associate themselves with, right? They don't want to associate themselves with the idea that they're like sneaky and they're somehow taking advantage of someone, or that term salesy, which people have taken to mean like as a negative or a bad thing, right? And the idea is that like we are lucky in our industry and that we don't have to do that. Nothing we sell doesn't help people, right? If we were selling like yoga pants or solar panels or used cars or whatever, then there's maybe some opinionation there that we don't need to be doing what we're doing. But the people coming to us need us, right? They need us to help them live happier, healthier, fuller lives. And they cannot do those things if we don't help them get into the industry, if we don't help them get into fitness, right? So we owe it to them to do that. We never have to be this dude. We never have to think, how do I take advantage of someone? We just got to show them we can help them and then help them. Right. So what we do is we teach people how to raise the trust of the person in front of them. When you work with a referral, it's not like, your client's sister or your client's boss or friend or coworker, that oftentimes when you speak to them, it's like a very easy conversation. It's like, hey, I want to work with you. And the reason is because the person that referred them demonstrated that there's tons of trust in you already, right? But when you work with people that didn't come from a referral, you don't have that trust built in yet. And while this sounds crazy, not everyone knows that working out makes you feel better, right? If they truly understood that, they would just go work out on their own. They wouldn't need you for these things, but they don't, so they do need us. And what we want to do is the entire time we're in a sales conversation with someone, we want to treat it like we're trying to fill up a trust meter. It starts at pretty low. They know nothing about us. We're just a nameless, faceless person sitting in front of them, or maybe on a Zoom call or a phone call or an email chain, telling them that we want their money so that we can do things. And by the end, we want them to know that we understand them fully. We can help solve their exact problem. And we've helped many other people solve those problems before. And if we do that, the trust meter's full. And if they can afford it, they're ready to sign up, right? So there's 5 skills that we like to teach to help master sales. They start off with confidence and mindset. I think these two go hand in hand, right? Mindset is understanding that this is not like a trick or a trap or something I have to win. It's just reminding yourself, I am here to help people. And that's it. And if you can remember that, it should take away all the pressure from sales conversations. I don't have to win a negotiation here. I just have to be here to help you. In some cases, maybe that isn't working with me and using my service. And if that's the case, then I should refer you to something better. But if I know that as long as I help you, I still win, there's no chance of me losing here. Right? So mindset is, what am I here to do? I'm here to help people. Then there's confidence. And confidence is, I've helped people before, so I can help you too. Right? We like to think about like the most confident people we know in life. And the reason they're so confident is because they're good at connecting something they've done before to something that they're trying to do now. Like someone who can like pick up snowboarding or surfing or something. Like it's the reason they do that is they have some experience in life and they can connect the dots between those two things, right? When we have someone sit in front of us, whether virtually or in person, and they're trying to get fit or get healthy, they don't actually know that we can help them, or there wouldn't be a need for this sales meeting. So we need to give them the confidence that we have helped by showing them other people that we've helped in the same situation as them. Right? Next is projection. Many of us do this as fitness coaches. We project things like our finances onto the people in front of us. And if you've been working out nearly every day for 10 years and you measure your food and you cook well and you do all these things, then you don't view those as like very significant tasks. But if you don't do those things, they are significant. And if they can affect serious change, they may be worth a lot more money to someone than they would be to you. An example is like that I don't know anything about how to fix my truck. So when I need to get my truck fixed, I pay somebody else to do it. Someone who likes playing around with their truck, that's going to sound insane to them. I don't want to know anything about my truck. I want someone to fix my truck. The clients that we should be talking to are not the ones who are already working out 6 days a week and are already measuring their meals and counting their macros. We should be talking to people who need our help. And because they need our help, they're willing to pay for our help. And then there's clarity, right? Clarity is knowing how to communicate what you do and what problems your service solves, right? So saying like, I help you work out, everybody helps you work out. Planet Fitness helps you work out, and that only costs $10 a month. But if your service is $100 or $200 or $300 or whatever a month, you need to be able to clearly communicate what it is and how it solves the need of the person you're talking to, right? So like those 4 things are kind of behind the scenes, but then the really tactical one is just asking better questions. Most fitness coaches are really good at teaching exercise and really crappy at asking questions to people that matter, right? So what we do is we teach people how to ask good questions and how to ask them in a very specific way. If anyone wants to know more about this, I would research the concept of motivational interviewing. That's a good way to get really, really deep into this. But the idea is that we want to ask open-ended, emotion-based questions, right? So oftentimes, fitness coach will say something like, "What are your goals?" Right? But the issue is the prospect or the lead or the potential client either doesn't have any goals or they don't know what their goals are. So that creates a stop in the conversation. Or sometimes even worse, they tell you something because they want to give you an answer, but that's not really what they want. And then if you act on that information at the end, they say, I got to go talk to my spouse about this, or I need to think about the price, or I got to check my budget, or whatever that means, right? So instead, we teach people to ask open-ended, emotion-based questions. So like the first question we teach people to ask is, what brought you in? How can we help you? That has intentionally 1,000 answers that could come from that, right? And whatever answer they give you, like, hey, I want to lose some weight, we ask a deeper follow-up question to that. Because nobody really wants to lose weight. They want something that comes from losing weight. So I need to get them to tell me that thing. And then when they say something like, when they say I want to lose weight, and I say, cool, what would losing weight do for you? What would be different if you did? And they say something like, well, I'd fit into the clothes I used to wear in college. That's something they care about. And once you have something they care about, a deeper emotional thing, we stop asking questions. We validate whatever their concern was by saying something like, oh, Andrew, I totally get that, man. I understand. And then say, we had a client named Brian. He's been doing virtual training with me for the last 3 months, and now he's fitting in his clothes from college. So I'm providing evidence that I can help this person with the thing that they asked for. I stopped for a second there. That was a lot of words. As fitness coaches, we all know that if you work out and eat better, your life will get the goals you want. But the people sitting in front of us believe that they're the only person with this problem and that nothing must work because it hasn't yet worked for them. So what we have to do is understand what their true problem is and then show evidence of how we've solved that exact problem before. And if we ask people a bunch of questions in our consultation or our sales meeting, and we do this process every single time, that trust meter that we talked about is going to get more and more full because we're literally just giving them evidence after evidence after evidence about how we can help them. Right? Then at the end, once we have all their information, we're going to go ahead and we're going to recap everything they just told us. We're going to say, you told me you were looking for X. You were concerned about Y, but we've already talked about how we're going to overcome that via Z, right? X is the thing they wanted. Y is something they were concerned about during the consultation. And Z is reminding them how you've already overcome those things at this point, right? So like you told me you were looking to get back into shape so you could fit into your clothes when you were in college. I know you were concerned because you've already wasted a ton of time at the gym and you don't have a lot of free time. But we've already talked about how I'm going to give you a written plan and you're going to know exactly what to do every time you come in. So that will not be a concern. So it takes everything you just talked about in the sales meeting. It takes that vibe and puts it back into 20 seconds or so. And it helps remind the client that you know everything there is to know about them and they can trust you. After that, you prescribe the appropriate plan and then they sign up. And that's how it goes. That's our slides.
So, mind if I jump in with some questions?
Yeah, please.
So, how we had Mike Manzi on earlier this year talking about sales and how there's been sort of a generational shift in the classic problem of sales that we talk about, overcoming objections, and that historically sales was about having like pre-made, scripts for handling objections, and now it seems like the challenge has become uncovering the objections as part of the sales call, and this almost seems like a version of that where you're digging into deeper questions almost to uncover objections, proactively present a solution, and then get them to frame it in their own words that you are the solution to their own objections. Is that?
Yeah, that's really good. I would say the most common question I get when I teach sales, and I've taught hundreds and hundreds of owners and coaches now how to improve their sales. The most common initial questions I get are, how do I overcome objection X or objection Y, right? Mm-hmm. And my answer to that is always that if you run into objections, you did not do a very good job during the interview process.
Discovery, yeah.
Yeah, during the discovery or the motivational interviewing process, because the reason we're running into objections is because people are trying to avoid telling you, you don't seem worth it to me. Mm-hmm. Right? Like they won't say those things because that feels wildly taboo, but that's what they're doing. So they say things like, my budget, or I need to check with my spouse, or just some other protectionary measure, you know?
Mm,
I like to say often it's like the girl who doesn't want to tell you you're ugly at the bar, so they say they have a boyfriend.
mm,
Oh, really? They're like, you're ugly. I don't want to talk to you. That's the situation we have right here. So if we do a really, really good job of uncovering those issues and then speaking to them and very clearly showing evidence of how we've solved that problem, then at the end, we just don't have objections, you know?
mm. And how do you know when you've asked enough of those questions?
Yeah, as you're talking to people, you know, you're writing things down or you're typing things down if you're on Zoom or something like that, and you feel like you have a very clear understanding of what the person's needs are in front of you, right? But what you want to do is you want to recap it at the end and make sure that there's nothing else that hasn't been spoken about yet. You know, so that XYZ recap that I taught right there, after we do that recap, I say like, cool, Andrew, we got you, man. We can definitely help you out. Is there anything else that's going to hold you back from being successful that we haven't talked about yet?
Mm.
And that's like your last ditch effort to wipe anything else off the table, you know?
So, Valerie, you're here on the hot seat as a convert from someone who thought sales was slimy to not. What was that experience like for you?
I am. I don't know if I would necessarily. I mean, I guess subconsciously I thought it was a little bit slimy. It was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I'd never done it before or tried to like convince anybody of anything before. And it was really just getting, like Nick said, into the mindset that like we aren't convincing anybody of anything. And our number one job is just to help people and to show them how we help people. So I remember, and it's just reps and getting comfortable with what you're saying to people, the questions you're asking, and knowing that like that is what you're doing. So the more you do it, the more like ingrained that becomes in your mindset too. So the first sales meeting I ever did, I was working for Nick for about 3 weeks. He just said, I need you to do this in 5 minutes. And I said, okay. And from there, because that one obviously was not my best work.
You had gone through some training at this point, or was it?
No,
it was just. So
like,
him putting you on the hot seat is not a new thing.
No. But each one has gotten a little bit better, and you try new questions and you try new follow-up questions and just learn like how to get into digging into what people want. So I feel like I've gotten better at that just by taking a step back and being like, I'm a person talking to a person and like I have a solution to their problem.
I like that.
Yeah. Andrew, on that, I think like what a lot of coaches do is they forget that they are literally experts at this. And the person you're talking to is not an expert at this. And that's not to create like a power dynamic. The reason I'm saying that is that like they came to you for help. Like you have the answers, they do not have the answers. So sometimes we sit down and we think like, oh man, like I really hope I can get this person to sign up. And like that's always going to kind of feel like a win and a loss, or a win or a loss. And instead think like, I know the answer to this person's problem. I owe it to them to tell them the answer. It's not my job to make them sign up. But if I do a good job of demonstrating value in how I help people and how I solve those problems, then they'll sign up, you know?
What do you see as the most common sticking point or thing that coaches that are new to this or that they struggle with in the process?
I would say the most common thing is this fear that something's going to happen during the sales meeting. And like the person's going to like call you out or say that you lied or something. And, you know, I would say the easiest way to defend against that is just like, one, never lie to anyone. You don't have to do that to sell. That is absolutely not. And saying this on a recorded call, anyone who tells you to lie to people is a scumbag. Don't do it. But if you remember that you're not doing that and that you know the thing that you're talking about, there should be no fear in this conversation. You ask someone a question, they tell you something, you tell them the right thing based on that. For example, if you've never helped anyone lose 100 pounds yet, that's okay. But have you helped somebody lose 5 pounds? Because if you have, then you can probably help the person in front of you who wants to lose 100 pounds. right? And just remembering that, like that's the way to get over that fear issue, you know?
What would you say to somebody who, even with the mindset that you're helping somebody, feels like this process of open-ended emotional questions is still feels manipulative to them? You know, like somebody who feels like you're still trying to like play mind games with somebody.
Yeah, I understand that too. I mean, is that not what coaching is though, right? Like coaching is helping people achieve the goals that they want. I mean, how many times have you had to convince somebody to try a heavier weight than they wanted to, or try a
Hmm.
different movement pattern that they didn't want to do, or to try a new exercise that scared them or whatever? And I think that like you could call it manipulative if you want, like you could, but what is the end goal? If the end goal was to in some like to steal from them, then you're like I said, a scumbag. Don't do that. But if the end goal is to get them into a fitness program that gets their life higher qualitatively and longer, then I think like, you know, it may be worth making yourself uncomfortable for 20 minutes by asking them questions.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting analogy.
Yeah.
This phrase from an old mentor comes up to give your clients a little of what they want and a lot of what they need,
Mm,
which it does. It can toe a little bit of a dark line, because I've seen some cases where a coach will get a client to lift more weight than the client is wants to by uh, hiding the weight or pretending, not like hiding it where it's known, like they put the you've seen the thing where they put the garbage bag over the weight and somebody lifts like a 20-pound PR or something like that, and you're doing it to kind of demonstrate the power of the mind. But there's cases where somebody will not tell them that they put the 20 pounds on, tell them it's a different weight. And that's where I think you start crossing into, like you said, now you're lying to the client, and that can
mm,
feel really weird and kind of start going down this dark path. And I think that's a helpful way to kind of put some guardrails on the process where you're going through a process, you're asking questions, but it's the intention is to help them. It is not to trick them into doing something that they're not wanting to do. That sounds like it. That sounds not slimy to me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the idea, right? Is we want people to feel comfortable. These are just human communications, and
Right.
if we would communicate with each other better, more people would sign up for our service.
I was gonna say, I think it's really important to go off like the human communication thing, like to not act like you're speaking like a robot to these people or get
Mm-hmm.
stuck on like following the exact script perfectly or XYZ. Like just having a conversation and letting these people know that like you care about them. So like if they give you some answer, like what is your organic response to that if you are a person that cares about helping them and wants to know more information? Like it doesn't have to be what's written on the paper next, just like find out more information.
Mm. What, Valerie, is something that you feel like has changed the most from that first sales conversation to what you do now?
Um, Honestly, just my confidence in how I help people and knowing how to. So I have a background from my college degree in exercise science. Um, and so I think I came out of school knowing that like I can do these things, but I didn't have the confidence from like putting them into practice. And I think just over getting those repetitions and honestly coaching people, the more I coach people on the floor, the more comfortable I have having these conversations with people coming in the door, because it's kind of the same thing. Like when I meet someone for their first session, it's kind of recapping like what we're trying to do, what we're going to accomplish, where they're at, and kind of meeting them there. And that's all you're doing when somebody walks in the door, too. There's just like no sweat happening yet, but you're meeting them where they are and giving them the best plan to succeed. So I think just being more comfortable and confident in like prescribing those things and knowing that like I do know the right answer because I've seen this scenario before. So I think the experience just plays into it a little bit, but you don't get to have the confidence without having the practice leading up to it.
Yeah, that seems like a tightrope there to tell somebody who's new to a process to be confident in the process. How do you triangulate that imposter syndrome would be kind of like the mainstream way of probably describing that feeling. When you're kind of an imposter on some level at that point of the game, and
Yeah.
so it's like you want to be transparent and not lie to your prospect, but then also, at some level you would be in that process telling them that you don't have a ton of credibility other than, most people by at that point have maybe some certification or they've been training themselves, and maybe they've got a couple new clients. But how do you balance or triangulate between that kind of imposter syndrome and confidence mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I have definitely lived in that, so I can fully understand that. I think I've been lucky enough to, and I say lucky lightly because I know he's going to hold that over my head, but I've been lucky enough to have someone like Nick who just has thrown me into the fire on multiple occasions. And it's been like, do it and then mess up and then figure it out later. So I'm not saying that every sales meeting I've had since my first one has been like a home run and I've signed every single person up. Like I have lost some sales because I haven't been able to think of an example where I specifically helped somebody or I didn't ask the right follow-up question. But with every 2 that I missed, then I like learned from those and I signed up 3 more after that. And I was able to help 3 more people from there. So it's not going to come at 100% success rate. And I think that's just something you have to accept in the beginning, is not going into it just with like your confidence hat on and being like, now that I'm confident, I'm going to do all the things right, because it's just not going to happen. But not letting those like punch you in the gut and like take you out of the game, just like learn from them and move on.
Yeah. On that, right? Like the way you get confident in something is by doing it a lot, right? And gaining confidence in your previous experience. That everybody who squatted 300 pounds squatted 60 at some point, right? And then you squatted 70 and then 80 and then 100. And then all of a sudden you gained more confidence and more strength, right? What we teach with sales is that you need to be getting repetition, right? You need to be getting repetition after repetition after repetition. And then you need feedback on that repetition. Right. So like when I was throwing Val into the fire back then, what would happen is we'd talk about them afterwards and we'd say, how did that go? What did you guys talk about? What situations came up where you didn't know what to say? What situations came up where you did say something? And then we would base that off of, her signups or non-signups. And we got to the point where like, I never felt unconfident about her taking a consultation ever again, or to train other people in those things. So one of the things we do in Pathfinder is we run bi-weekly role play sessions where you get your repetitions with other people who are learning instead of those repetitions with somebody who may or may not buy from you. Because if every one of your repetitions is in a high pressure environment where you're hoping someone gives you money afterwards, you never get to like relax and say dumb things and hear what it sounds like when somebody says a better thing. And then you never get good feedback because those people aren't telling you the truth about why they didn't sign up anyway.
Right.
That's I love that. Before you jumped in, I was going to ask that. I mean, this is another thing that parallels almost perfectly with training and coaching, that you have this duality where on one hand you want to, from the beginning going into the sales conversation, to let go of the outcome, would be maybe another way of describing that you're not trying to get a win by having somebody sign up at the end. And yet at the end you have to detach from your emotional reaction to the outcome that you theoretically let go of from the beginning, and then reflect on it in a, you could argue, critical way, in a technical sense, because you have to be able to go back and look at it and evaluate what went right or wrong without then also attaching emotional value to that, like just because it didn't get the outcome that you were hoping for, therefore bad, just like like with training, like, I have to walk through clients all the time if they miss a rep that they really wanted to get. Well, okay, we have to validate the emotion, recognize that it sucks, you worked really hard for that, and yet it doesn't mean you wasted time or you're a bad person. And also, let's reflect on what we can do different next time, because that's what we have to do, is learning from the process. How do you coach people through that? From a emotional perspective, where they are able to kind of recognize opportunities for learning while still maintaining that detachment from the outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's one of the things, right? Like if you're going to be a good salesperson, and I don't mean a good salesperson in that like you generate a lot of money. I mean like a good salesperson in the way that we're talking about it, like a good coach. You have to be comfortable with the fact that you can't control the outcome every time, and that doesn't inherently make you a failure, right?
Mm,
So if I know that I said the wrong thing or I forgot to talk about something inside of a consultation, then that's just a learning opportunity for next time, right? The
mm,
the idea that there will be more people and I will have more opportunities and I will do a better job of trying to help the next one that comes in. But if I view it as I have to win every single one, like I hate to say it, if that's the way you view it, you're not long for this industry
mm.
because there are too many opportunities for failure. And I would consider that like athletics, right? I mean, in baseball, if you get what, like a third, you're considered
Right.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
big deal.
I mean, this kind of ties into another topic that comes up a lot, which is pricing. And I recently
Mhm.
saw, I think it was a Hormozy quote, that if you're not, if you're winning more than 20% of your, or if you're closing more than 20%, then your price is too low. Like immediately quadruple your price. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, that got shared around in the mastermind that I coach in quite a bit, and I think that's so silly. I think if you're selling things that are $40,000, then yeah, I'm on board with that idea. If you're
Hmm.
selling a $200 a month gym membership, that's not a good idea. What
Yeah.
we
What's your
generally
close rate target?
recommend, yeah, our what we recommend as excellent is if you're working with paid ads, so you're dealing with like significantly colder traffic. We
Mm,
say 70% close rate is like A plus. You're doing
mm,
amazing.
hmm.
If you're operating with non-paid ads, so generally referrals, then we say
A little bit
85%.
higher. Yep.
Yeah. Because if you can close at 70% with paid ads, meaning like literally they found you on a Facebook or Instagram ad,
Mm,
um, then you're doing very good because those people were generally not very far in the buying process,
mm,
and you were able to demonstrate enough know, like, and trust to pull them across the finish line. You're
mm,
doing very good at that point.
mm. It's so cool that that trust is a big part of your model. I gave
Mhm.
a whole series on um, trust and how to build trust as a coach, and kind of this three-factor model for trust. I did not come up with it. It's a study I found from the '90s on
Mhm.
uh, that trust is based on the trustor's perception of your ability, integrity, and benevolence, and that your job is to demonstrate those three things continuously, and that you can accumulate them over time. That was my little contribution idea, is that trust is not this like binary, somebody trusts you or not, but it's
Mm,
this thing that kind of ebbs and flows as you
for sure.
demonstrate those three things. And it fits perfectly in with what you're describing. And I'd never thought about it as something you can push up the sales funnel all the way to the content that you're putting out, to your
Mhm.
marketing content, to your ads, to the sales call. It's all an opportunity to kind of expand this trust building timeline all the way in, like you said, it's the first step of the coaching process, which is, it's cool to hear that these ideas sort of like merging together.
Yeah, that's really big for me. So a little background: I was in the military. I was an infantryman in the army, right? And then my final 2 years, I was a recruiter, not by choice. I just got detailed out, and that's where I got stuck, right? And that's
It's
where
a
I
good way to
learned a
learn
lot
some
of these.
sales reps.
Yeah, like there's not harder things to sell than the military. And I remember watching the other guys and girls, both from my branch and from the other branches, just like completely lie to people all the time, and I
Mm,
couldn't believe it.
yeah.
I would overhear it at another table, and I'd be like, I know that's not true. Like the thing you're saying is not true.
Yeah.
And over the course of 2 years, I signed up an incredible amount of people, and many of those people signed up with much lower amount of people than I did. And that helped me understand that like you don't have to do those things to get,
Mm,
they would make up complete lies, just like my recruiter did when I signed
yep.
up.
Yeah.
Uh, Told
I
me
was
I
in
could
the
take a
Navy, and
laptop
I
to
had
basic training.
my first division was I was a first division officer for destroyer. So my division was all the most junior seamen, and so many stories of, oh yeah, just sign up and then you can get special forces or whatever you
Totally.
want.
Yep.
You can pick whatever rate you want. But so they signed him in as a seaman. and just now they're stuck mopping the deck and painting the ship for 4 years.
I remember a Navy recruiter telling me that exact story.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was getting ready to go in, and I remember, I'm 18 years old. I learned that I get to Iraq 6 months after I joined when I was told I wouldn't deploy for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You learn those things at a young age. So then I became a recruiter, and I thought like the number one thing I'm not going to do is do that. Like
Yeah.
I'll just not be good at my job if that's what has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case. I just told the story. I answered honestly and truthfully to the questions that were asked to me, and people would sign up all the time. And I know that to be true because years later, when they would get out of the military, they'd come join my gym. And if those things
Nice.
weren't true, they wouldn't
That's cool.
want to be around us later. So we
Awesome.
we teach those same ideas to coaches and owners because you're not in this to take people's money, right? Like, I mean, we want their money because this is a business, but we're hoping to coach them for an extended period of time. So if I lie to you at the onset, what's the rest of our relationship going to be like?
And so many more questions come to mind on that, but I know we're a little bit over on time already.
Yeah.
Dan, is there anything from the live audience?
No questions. I would just say probably the most common question though that comes up is always price point. Is like you mentioned earlier on, if they bring up, hey, it's not for me or something, it's likely that you didn't do a good job in discovery. Is that true if it's price point as well? Because it really means something else. They haven't seen the value, or
for the most part, yeah. Like there is, an amount of people where like your service is $200 and like their value stack just says $200 for this is never possible, whether they actually can or can't afford it. Then like that's a scenario that's true, but it's pretty uncommon. It's generally like they have a need or a want or a goal, and you didn't speak to what we call like their strongest pain point. I've heard people call this the like the bleeding neck issue in the past, right? Like if I can give you a Band-Aid for your toe, but your neck is gushing blood, like I'm probably not that valuable to you. If somebody, most people tell us things like I want to lose weight, but they don't actually care to lose weight. They care about the downstream effects of that weight loss, whether they be like confidence, quality of life, aesthetics, like whatever. And if we didn't actually get to speak to those things and truly, truly show that we can solve those, money is the easiest way for you to not ask me further follow-up question.
Make it go away.
Yeah, it's like literally throwing up a shield in which you're probably not comfortable trying to bypass. So
Yeah, in a face-saving way, like they feel like there's
Totally.
giving you the easy out.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's just it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, we have some strategies around that, like having like a good, better, and best option for your programs. And then if you recommend the good, notice none of those were crap. It was good, better, and best. If you recommend the good and they can't afford it, then that's a pretty clear like, okay, then we're not the right service for you. But if you recommend like the better and they say it's a financial thing, and then you go to good and they still say no, then we know it wasn't a financial thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So what's the best way for people to find you if they want to work with you or see more of your content, learn more about Pathfinder Sales Coaching?
Yeah, for sure. You can find us at pathfindersalescoach.com, right? Or you can find us on Instagram at Pathfinder Sales. If anyone is listening to this and they would like a copy of our questionnaire or a set of automations for leads that come in, shoot us a DM and we'll help you out. We'll send it to you.
Awesome. Really appreciate your time, Nick and Valerie. Thank you for sharing your story as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, for those that are interested, speaking of sales, we've got to shamelessly plug our free discovery call. Go to turnkey.coach/BOC. Call turnkey.coach/BOC call, and you will probably be scheduled with me or Mac McGregor, where I will get to practice asking my open-ended emotional questions. So look forward to seeing more from you all, and have a great day.